Hi everyone! Welcome to Magic Spark Crafts video tutorials. Today we are doing a crochet along. So this is how this is going to work. Our crochet along is going to be this Dragon Scale dice bag, which I haven't fully completed this, but I kind of wanted to give you guys an example of what it looks like. So as you can see, you use the crocodile stitch. I like to call it Dragon Scale stitch. So we are going to be making the Dragon Scale dice bag. We're going to do this as a crochet along. But what we're going to do for the crochet along is I'm going to do it step by step with you. Essentially, it's going to be similar to row by row. We're going to actually start with this base all the way to the end of the round. Then the next stage is going to be going into the scales. We'll do the first step of the scales. Then the third stage will be the third set, which is the second set of scales. The fourth stage will be the third set of scales, and then we'll be on the end including how to measure out these holes. So if you're ready for this crochet along, let's go ahead and get started. One small rule for the crochet along: in order for me to post the next bit early, which I'd like to do this every day, but if you want it earlier than that, please comment that you have completed the first stage and you'd like the next stage. So we're going to start today with our first hook. Our hook, well, the first hook for the entire project. There is a second hook to use at the end. This one's an eye. You can use whatever size you prefer. I prefer to use an eye. It makes the stitch very tight, as you can see. Makes it so that things won't fall out. Very good stitch, very good hook. Then we're going to use some yarn. I'm using this pink. It is Vanna's Choice by Lion Brand, and it is the pink poodle color. The reason I'm using this is it shows up very well on camera, as well as I happen to have a lot of it because it was on clearance at Joann.com. So, clearance yarn, yay! We're going to start with our first round. Now I'm going to show you a couple of tricks. If you've seen some of my previous videos, you should be familiar with these. We're going to do the first chain without doing a slip stitch. So to do that, hold your yarn however you're comfortable. I like doing this where I've got the yarn coming from my yarn ball up under my fingers, around the first finger, between the two fingers, down, and being held by my thumb and ring finger. This gives me tension right here, which is where I'm going to be crocheting. Then I take my hook, pop it in front of my tension yarn, which is where the tail is. I'm going to take that hook, I'm going to twist it down and behind the yarn, because that's going to pull that yarn into a sideways V shape. And then I'm going to keep twisting and then pull back up. That gives me my ribbon, like the cancer ribbon and life ribbon and all that. That gives me my ribbon shape. I'm going to yarn over and pull through that ribbon hole. That gives me my first chain. We're going to chain 2. If you're going to do a slip knot, that's perfectly fine. Do your slip knot, then chain 2. Okay, so the next trick I'm going to show you is the false magic circle. When you look at your chain, you can see where this tail goes through there, and you've got the side here where it's just a single. A lot of people will tell you to stitch through that single piece rather than stitching through this double piece. When I say double piece, I mean the tail and the chain. So that part's the chain, this part's the tail right there. Try and get a little bit of a better view for you. Alright, so instead of stitching through the single, I'd like you to put your hook through the center, but grab your yarn and loop it so that the single part of the chain is on the bottom, the double part where your tail comes through is on the top. The reason you're going to do that is because when you make your single crochet, you'll see that that now has essentially trapped this tail in your stitch. That means instead of going through and doing a whole bunch of crazy stuff to try and get a magic circle, you have this tail to pull it through. You can close that circle up very easily with the tail of your yarn. So we are going to do 4 single crochets in our first stitch, our first chain. So 2, 3, and 4. We're going to push or pull our tail any direction. I like to put it behind the project. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we've got our chain stitch there. Now here is tip number 3 to make a very nice circle that becomes unnoticeable where the seaming is. Sometimes you'll see in a pattern where they say to include the chain turning stitch or the chain stitch as a first stitch, such as a single crochet. That can be true, but what happens is when you start joining into that, you get this weird look in the project. So I'm going to show you something that I do that helps a lot. I'm going to actually single crochet into, join stitch into the first single crochet. So I'm taking the first single crochet, sticking my hook through, yarning over, pulling through, and doing a slip stitch. Now if I do it loosely, I will still get the top of what looks like a single crochet, but it is a slip stitch, and I will still have my first stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I have made that first chain, which is there, into a stitch. If I pull too tightly, that will destroy what we're doing, but that comes later. We're going to actually keep it the way it is right now, loosely done. So from here, we're going to chain 1, right? Okay, single crochet into the first stitch again. So remember, we're going to include that chain as your first stitch, right? So single crochet, technically that's going to be 2. We're going to 2 single crochet into the next one. You may notice I go through both the front and back loop. I prefer this method when I'm making something that needs to be a little stiffer, such as a pouch or a bag. I find that this helps greatly with making sure that things don't slip through. It helps make sure that the project stays solid, and I just feel like it's a bit sturdier. It's not going to tear as much. So remember, we're 2 single crocheting through each single crochet. Sorry about the camera blinding a little bit here with all the blurry. It is actually my phone camera, but I am trying to go slow enough to keep it solid. So here we are. We've gotten the 2 single crochets into each single crochet, and now we just have this join stitch left. We are going to 2 single crochet into the join stitch. So we're going to pretend that that is its stitch. So when that's done, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 single crochet and your chain stitch. Again, we're going to do the same thing we did last time. We're going to join stitch into the first single crochet, not the chain stitch, but the single crochet one, doing it loosely, and you've got all 10. You see that turns into a very beautiful circle. Now that we've got 2 rows on here, I'm going to show you the magic circle trick. Take that tail yarn. If you did this correctly, where you stitched it into the stitching itself, you should be able to just hold onto the center lightly. You'll feel it turn, and boom, no hole. All right, let's go ahead and move on. We are going to do essentially 9 rows. But we're going to move on here to the 3rd row so that we make sure that we've got this. Chain 1, single crochet into the same stitch that you joined in. So now technically you've got 2, remember that. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the next part here. Acting like this is 2, we're going to do 1 single crochet into the next stitch, 3, 2 single crochet into the 3rd stitch, 4 and 5, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, which is going to make 6 stitches, and so on and so forth. So 7 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Make sure you've got some yarn. 13, 14. Now remember that join stitch we do stitch into, which is going to be 15. Okay, then we're going to join into the first single crochet with a slip stitch. You've got yourself your stitch. Still works the same. So you're going to repeat this pattern on the 4th row. You're going to do your 2, which is going to be your chain stitch and single crochet, then 1 1 2 1 1 2, and you'll do the same thing, continue all the way around to 9 rows. Each round is going to add 5 stitches. So once you get to 9, you should be up to 45 stitches. The best way to make sure you're on track, if you're new to this, when you are done with your circle, you're going to count, including that join stitch. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15. I have 15 on here. The next row should bring me 20. If you're unsure how to count a stitch, there's 2 ways. You can count by the number of these little triangles here, but that can get very complicated, especially when you get into the doubles into one and you've got ones that split. Go by the one that looks like the braid. So 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, once everyone that is joining or would like to join has gotten up to 9 rows, which is 45 stitches, do not join at the end. Wait for my next video. Comment on this video that you have completed this and would like to move to the next stage, and we'll continue into the crochet along for the Dragon Scale dice bag. Hope you guys are enjoying this so far, and I'm a little excited to be doing a crochet along with everybody, and I hope to see you at the next video. Bye bye.